Hello everybody, welcome to number 27. I'm Jack, and finally I'm back in an Alfa Romeo. Today I'm going to tell you why I chose this particular model of 159, what's good and not so good, and spoiler alert, I've only had it a few days and already there's quite a few things that I don't like. I've been looking for a new daily for a while. My CL500 was a brilliant car, but it was totally uninvolving to drive, and my time with it didn't really end well. I wanted something practical, but a little bit more fun to drive, and initially I plumped for an E39 528 Touring. Unfortunately, that car turned out to have a really bad misfire and I was forced to move it on. For the brief drive home, before it broke, I rather liked that 528, but at the same time I realised that it was a little bit too similar to the CL500 for comfort. They're both big, heavy cars. So I decided to downsize a little bit to go for something a bit more agile. I looked at E46s, but it seems almost impossible to find anything decent in the spec that I wanted, which is manual gearbox and one of the big straight sixes. But I couldn't find anything. I'm still on the lookout for one of those, so if you know of one, do get in touch with me. On and off, I'd also been keeping a look on 159s. To me, the best ever looking car in this segment, and also much better built than any Alfa that came before it. The TI was the model that I wanted. That's a sportier trim with 19-inch wheels, red brake calipers, lowered, firmer suspension, and lots of extra equipment. The thing is that between that and the very desirable 1750 TBI engine, everybody is after that combination, so they're really quite pricey. After a while, this one popped up. I wasn't necessarily after an estate. I actually think that the saloons look better, but most people prefer these, and also it has extra practicality, so it's even more desirable, and that's going to be quite useful whenever I decide to sell it on. It's got just 94,000 miles on it and a full service history. It's had yearly oil changes, and recently the whole front end was redone, both upper and lower wishbones. But it didn't come cheap. I ended up paying £6,500 for it. It's a really nice car which has obviously been well kept, but it does have a couple of small issues, mostly here at the back. So first of all, the wiper does work, but there's a sprayer there for the washer at the back. That doesn't work. Also, the button for the rear lid doesn't work either, but the remote does, so the mechanism itself is okay. It's very likely, and we hope that it is just that button. So I think a replacement is about £80, so I'll be looking at doing that. Aside from that, it has the odd little mark which you'd expect on a car which is coming up to 100,000 miles. So a little chip here and there, and a little scratch and dent on one of the front wings, I think, but not very noticeable. More worrying when I was looking into it is the MOT history. In the last 4 years, or 3 years, it's failed every single MOT the first time it's gone in, and then it has passed. It's nothing hugely serious there. It was things like the engine management light being on in one case, tyres being worn in another, that kind of stuff. But it just doesn't look good, does it? And initially it gave me pause for thought, but having, knowing that all the work has been done on it and money has been spent on it reassured me. And the previous owner also explained that his garage is used as an MOT training station, so they are particularly strict. Whatever the case, I think that, it's definitely a good car, and I was happy to go ahead with it. As I've already hinted though, me and the 159 haven't got off to the best start. So let's find out more. Now, to start it up, sort of fancy but a bit gimmicky, you put the key in the dash, stop-start button, and then I'd say it roars into life, but it really doesn't. So the gears are quite notchy. I wouldn't know whether to say that's an Alfa-like feature or not. Certainly it's reasonably pleasant, but actually before I start complaining about all the things I don't like, let me tell you what I do like, because there is an awful lot to like. Now, the first thing is, it looks absolutely amazing. I mean, tell me, what car in this segment has ever looked as good as a 159? My own personal preference is for the saloon, but obviously the estate also looks great. Those 3 front lights, that front end, but everything about this design, when I first saw it, when it came out, I remember, I think it was at an airport, I was absolutely gobsmacked. They had it in the sort of waiting area because for people to see, and I couldn't believe that Alfa were making a car like this, and I said to myself, with something that looks like that, finally Alfa will be successful. Now that didn't necessarily turn out to be correct, because when the first reviews came out of these, they sort of mentioned that they were a bit disappointing. They didn't really drive like Alfas. But let's stick to the good stuff for now. So it's a really beautiful car. I'm happy to be seen in it. And with the TI trim, it has extra side skirts, the bigger wheels. It's glorious. Ideally, I would have wanted like a red one or a different color, to be honest. I'm a bit fed up with black. And also they get dirty so quickly. But that side of it, I am very, very happy about. Well, the interior is great as well. These seats are an absolute work of art. Yes, they are part of the TI trim, but Alfa has always been good with making interiors look great. The thing is though, this also feels great. I mean, the leather is supple, but it all feels like quality. So when you look around, from this flat dash with the brushed aluminium, all the instrumentation, these flat panels here, it looks great. And it feels solid. I mean, it feels more like an Audi than an Alfa, to be quite honest with you. And I think that that's where part of the problems begin. So let's see how the engine feels for a start. Oh, perfect. The engine management light has come on. I hit the rev limiter. Oh, that's not good news. Have engine checked. Wonderful. And now it's under power. Oh, I did hit the limiter and it backed off straight away, but you're supposed to be able to do that. Let me just stop and switch it back on, and I'm hoping that will cure it. Otherwise, we'll continue with the test, and then after this, I will try and reset all the warnings and see if it goes away. But oh no, that doesn't feel nice. It's now misfiring at idle quite badly. Okay, it feels fine and the engine light has gone off, but that's obviously scared me a little bit. I mean, maybe it didn't like me hitting the limiter, but still it obviously shouldn't do that. Now, this car also has a remap, so 240 horsepower up from 200. That's pretty standard with these. Lots of people do it, and it's all right. But yeah, that's not good. That really isn't good. But let's get back to the engine. Well, my biggest criticism, apart from possibly reliability now, is that it doesn't feel like an Alfa engine in any way whatsoever. Now, I'm pretty sure this is also in the 4C. In that car, you can hear the turbo, the wastegate whooshing and so on, and it's quick, so it's not a remarkable engine, but there's a little bit of drama to keep you interested. In this, it's just totally meh. And it's not just the sound that disappoints, it's a little bit of a buzzy engine. So although it's happy to rev up to just over 6 normally, in this car it sets off the engine light temporarily, but anyway, it's happy to spin up, but it doesn't feel nice when it's doing that. I remember the 2-litre engines back in, I can't remember what they're called, but back when you had the 145 Cloverleaf, those 2-litre twin spark engines, they were lovely and creamy and so sharp. They were truly Alfa engines, although it was a new generation. This one, well, it's just, yeah, it doesn't make me, it does the job, but it doesn't make me want to love it. Well, it does seem to be behaving okay now, so maybe that was a one-off. I might look at removing that map and putting it back to standard. I don't feel that it needs 240 horsepower anyway, the way I'm going to drive it. It will have enough power even with 200, and I guess better to be safe than sorry. Let's see how it does in the tighter corners, because they're not supposed to be very involving cars. Got a bit of stuff rattling around in the boot. The suspension is pretty firm, so it went through those corners quite flat. It was quite well composed. When it comes to the steering feel though, I think the best you can say is that it's accurate and it's responsive. The speed of it, I think they have just about right. I think what does disappoint though is that there isn't an Alfa-like amount of feel coming through it. It's not alive, it's a little bit dead. And this car, having the lightest engine, is by far the best handling. Most of the others with the heavier lumps are much more prone to understeer. The other bad thing about it all is that the suspension is pretty firm. I mean, this isn't really an out-and-out sports model, and yet I'd say that an E46 M3 probably rides a bit better on most surfaces. That's just not acceptable. Perhaps I chose the wrong trim level. I went for the TI because I like the way it looks and everything it came with, but perhaps a lower spec would suit me better. I don't think I need that super flat cornering, and it does really keep it quite well in check. I would prefer to have a little bit more softness in the corners, but more composed ride for everyday driving. But having said all that, look, it is fun to drive, and it's a definite improvement, as it should be, on the CL500. You can drive it on this road and you can be entertained. At least there's some precision to the steering. You can have a bit of fun. That CL was just, having fun was an anathema. It would not do it. At least this does do that. Something else I'm not happy about, I know that it keeps coming, is that this is a 1750 turbo engine, and it should do pretty well in terms of economy, and yet over the last week or so I have averaged 29-30 miles to the gallon, which isn't bad. But when you consider that I'm pretty careful normally, and when you consider that the CL did an average of 24 miles to the gallon, just 6 miles to the gallon more with this crappy little engine, I think personally that it's not good enough. I mean, let me know what you think. It could be that the remap is affecting it, and I am going to have a look at that. I mean, tell me what you think in terms of the remap. Should I remove it? I'm thinking maybe I should. It's critical when you have them to do an oil change every year, and in any case it's good practice with these engines, but that has been done on this. It's now running absolutely fine. I'm going to say that's got to be a glitch that happened, but it's shaken my faith in it a little bit, because it feels so nice, so well built. Stuff you don't say for an Alfa, you know, so well built, so solid. There's no creaks, there's no rattles. The interior, it feels like a quality car. And I'd automatically started thinking that it is a quality car, and yet that has shaken me up a bit. That's not nice. Now the ride, maybe I find a little bit compromised, but this is still a comfortable car. The seats are exceptional. Not only do they look incredible, but they are just so comfortable. It's also really quite a practical car. This one in particular being the Estate, but even the saloons have plenty of room inside, as this does. Really good driving positions. In the case of the Estate here, it would be really good if it had a flat loading bay. It doesn't. Obviously it's compromised, it's more of a sporting shooting brake, I suppose, and I'll happily trade those looks for a flat loading bay, so I'm happy with it as it is. But there's not tons of room in the boot, and the lip makes it a little bit less usable. Now if you're looking at buying one of these, well, you can get them the normal. This is really an outlier in terms of price, because it's an Estate, because it's a 1750, because it's a TI, it's the most expensive that you will find. You can get decent cars for around £3,000. Now I don't know the ins and outs of all the engines, but I know that some of the other petrol engines don't have that much more go. They're not that reliable. I think they have cam chain stretch, or perhaps it's the diesels. Sorry, I'm not hugely prepared because I wasn't interested in looking at those, but there are some issues with the other engines, although the 5-cylinder, I think diesels are great engines to run. So they sound good. I think they go pretty well. They've got a lot of punch. So I wouldn't totally dismiss that, because yes, this handles well for a 159. It's quite crisp around the corners, and the more I have it, the more impressed I am overall. But really, it's still no sports car, so perhaps you should just opt for something which is stronger on the comfort side, rather than compromising that to get a car that handles a little bit better but still isn't amazing. So look, having heard this now, you may be thinking that I really don't like this car because I've whinged about the way it handles, the way it rides, fuel consumption, and, you know, I haven't, yeah, okay, I like the way it looks, but that doesn't sound like enough. No, I don't want it to come across quite that badly. I do actually like it. I'm happy I've got it. I wouldn't go back on it. I'm not sure how long I will keep it for, and I really would love to compare it to an E46. I think that the rear-wheel drive chassis and the slightly better resolved suspension would make it a more satisfying car to drive even than this sort of sportier TI with the sort of blown little engine. But we'll see. I have to say that I do feel comfortable with it. I think it's a car that suits me in the sense that it works for me. You know, you can identify with the car. The 528, I wasn't that sure, to be honest, if it was me. This is definitely me. I like the way it looks. I think I look good in it. I fit well in it. I'm happy to have it, and I'm happy for now to put up with some of the things that I don't like. None of them is a deal breaker unless it starts being really unreliable. But the rest of it, quite happy to deal with and quite happy to have it. They just look great, and they're so much more interesting than the other stuff that you can get. Come on, everybody's got an E46. This is an interesting car. And it's an Alfa, so finally I've got back to having an Italian daily, which I'm also really happy about. Got to thank you all massively for watching. Please do put down any comments on anything I should do. It's due an oil service, I think, this year's oil service, so I'll get that done. And I'll get everything else checked out, and I'll do a code read as well and see if it says anything for that engine warning light that came on. Thank you all for watching, and see you for the next video.